when there is no more room in hell.
Well, sometimes that is better.
The dead will walk.
Hey guys, all right. Welcome back to Shambling Horror Podcast. Believe we are on episode 10 now. 10 episodes, guys. 10 episodes. That's 10 hours of my life that I have dedicated to random audio and video listeners around the world. It's kind of crazy. It's really weird to think about. Like, I wonder if anybody watches or listens to this in any really obscure corners of the world. Like, do I have audio and video watchers of my analysis of horror content in Siberia, right? Or some really interesting places. Just as fun to think about. There's somebody in a cave with a satellite on top of the mountain, listening to my Spotify podcast. Yeah, guys, welcome back, guys. So today, we are going to be going over, I'm going to be giving sort of a very brief, series overview. And we're going to go over episode 1 and 2 of We're Alive. I'm not going to spoil anything. So if you guys want to enjoy this, I highly recommend it. Promise I won't spoil anything. Just a very brief overview. But yeah, guys, welcome back. But yeah, hopefully everybody's doing well. So We're Alive. We're Alive just put out a brand new season. They just started on the 5th. The first 2 episodes are out. They're chapters. They're usually in 3 parts. Chapter 1, part 1, 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. So yeah, maybe they're just going to do 2 parts. But yeah, super exciting. I think they released them on Wednesdays, if I remember right. So basic overview of the series. If you're not aware of what We're Alive is, I've talked about it before on the podcast. So We're Alive is what I would describe as a radio drama. I think that's how they describe it too. Audio theater, radio drama. So it's essentially an audio book that's fully produced. It's fully produced every week. They record them and then release them. It's like a TV show basically, but it's the audio version. Or a serial, I think people call it that. But they have voice actors for all the characters, and they do all the sound effects. So if there's a gun, there's gun noises and explosions and all of that. They produce all of that. It's essentially a TV show with the video turned off. It's a radio drama. It's on Spotify. I think it's on Stitcher. It's pretty much everywhere you can find podcasts. Apple Podcasts. I listen to it on Spotify personally. I always have. Well, you know what's funny is I lie. I think actually I listened to this when it first came out. I think I listened to this on Stitcher. I'm pretty sure. I'm enjoying this on Spotify. But you can find it everywhere. It's been around. What's crazy is your show has been around for more than a decade. I want to say, when did they first publish this? We sort of joked about this on the stream one time. So the first episode came out in 2009. So 13 years. November 2009. I've been listening to this since 2011. I found this late. I've been listening to this since 2011. But yeah, this show has been around since 2009, which is wild. They usually take a couple years off between seasons to record and produce and do everything. These people all have lives too, right? What's crazy about this show is if I remember right, it started as a college project. It was just some people goofing off, and they wanted to do some fun artsy stuff for school. While they were in school, and now it's this huge thing. They have sponsors. It's been around for more than a decade. I think these guys dedicate their lives to this show now, which is wild. That a passion project sort of became a living. That's the dream. But the premise of the show is you have all these different characters who end up in a situation where the world is overrun by they're basically zombies. Not in the slow Shambler sense, and they're not undead. They're just wild almost like 28 Days Later creatures. And you have all these different characters who end up meeting up, and there's like bad like people, right? And I don't want to spoil anything in case you guys want to listen to this. But there's like some bad people in a particular area, and then they have like a war, like the two factions war, and like, but then you add in like there's like some special versions of these creatures and things, and like they get into the lore of that and how the creatures came about. At one point in the series, they do like a deep dive into it's not really a spoiler, like essentially like the leader of like the creatures have a leader, and they like, it's really, really cool. And the voice actors are great. All the different characters have different voice actors. Some of those I think pull double duty, the voice actors, but for the most part, they all have different voice actors. Super, super good. Highly recommended if you like zombie stuff or even like suspenseful, like audiobook like stuff. Highly, highly recommend it. There's like, I think like I can't remember how many chapters were in the first season. I want to say it's like 50 or 60 just in the first season. And then, so there was the first season, not the first season, but the first series, sorry. The first series, and then they did the sequel prequel-ish. I want to say, because I want to say in Lockdown, it was We're Alive Lockdown. I want to say that was, I want to say it was like the backstory. I want to say they told some of the backstory of one of the like villains. Yeah, because it was Lockdown. And then they did Gold Rush. Gold Rush was the sequel to We're Alive. And then Descendants now is the new one. That's like the brand new one. So yeah, highly recommend it. I'm going to go over episode 1 and 2 of the new season. I promise you I won't spoil anything. I'm just going to sort of give my 2 cents on both of them. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, obviously leave it in the live chat. I'll answer whatever you want about the show. I'm not going to spoil anything though. So episode 1 is really interesting because, so this is a prequel and it takes place like years and years and years and years and years after, like decades after the first, I want to say it's like actual decade, like it takes place years after the first series takes place. People are like established and there's like a government, and they have like elections and like a military and like the whole deal, right? Like they're fully established. There's still creatures running around, but it's like they're like, there's actually like different factions now, like established different factions with like different governing bodies and things. It's like serious. So so far in this series, in episode 1, you get, you're basically, and this isn't a spoiler, but you're basically getting, the kids of lots of previous characters. And those previous characters are, it's interesting the way they did it in the first episode, because you'll have a character introduce and you'll be following that character, and then somebody else, like you'll have a passerby will say, "Oh, hi," and they'll be like, "Oh, I heard you were like we've heard stories about you. You're like the son of this like legendary person or whatever," like one of the older characters, and then they move on from that. It's like done, which is cool because we don't need to spend a lot of time explaining like, oh, this is the son of fucking Zeus, and Zeus threw lightning bolts 1,000 years ago, and like, well, we already told that. Well, we didn't, but they already told that story, so they don't need to re-fucking tell the story. So like, it's really cool how they just sort of, they pop those little seeds in there. And you're like, okay, cool. I know this is like the son of fucking Kal-El or whatever, right? And I don't need. I'm trying not to spoil anything. I'm not using any names, but like, I think that's interesting the way they do that. They also drop some of the older characters in and then pull them out immediately. It's not necessarily just, it's not fan service because those characters will obviously be around for the show, hopefully, but like it's, they're basically building up these new characters, which is really cool. Like, I appreciate that. Like, I'm not like a professional writer or anything, and I'm like, I don't do movies or whatever, you know what I mean? I notice things like that. I'm like, oh, it's cool. Like, let's concentrate on establishing these new characters instead of just rehashing old stories or like having new adventures with old characters. It's actually really exciting. But in the first episode, it starts out really wild. Like, I actually prefer part 1 over part 2. Part 1 sort of throws you right in with like really like it's horrifying. Actually, it's scary. A lot of the first part is it's a lot more tense. It's a lot more tense than the second part. You basically, the first part, like I said, basically introduces you to some new characters and sort of establishes where some old characters are, and ratchets up the tension like in the first probably like 5 minutes. Just completely heightens the tension. But what happens is, going into the second part, that tension's still there. So like they're doing all their like character establishment stuff, but there's like some stuff hanging over, right? Like you sort of know, like, hey, there's some shit out in the world and it's coming at some point, right? Like there's some real problems here. And then what they do in the second episode is second part of the first chapter, they start building some like internal tension. There's like some things going on, not necessarily between characters, but like between factions and things like that. And they throw that in there. And then they essentially, at the end of episode 2, you start your hero's journey. So your main characters are going to go like on their quest to do whatever they're going to do, right? Like I don't want to spoil anything. So you start your hero's journey. But before any of that, they sort of build some tension between the factions in the story and then like some other stuff that I don't necessarily want to get into that's super scary, like really, really scary. Like some of the scariest stuff I feel like they've ever done was like the first like 5 minutes. So in the first series, there's a portion in the very first series, We're Alive, in the original series, there's a portion where like some characters are captured. And this isn't a spoiler, but some characters are captured and they're essentially like slowly but surely being like picked out to be cannibalized and like eaten. And they cannot escape. And you get like 2 or 3 episodes where these 2 characters who didn't know each other essentially are like coming to grips with like being captured and like hearing people being eaten and stuff and like dragged out in front of them. Like it's really crazy. And that's the feeling in like probably the first 5 or 10 minutes of this episode. You're like, yo, it's just like Doom. It's gnarly. It's really good. Like I said, I prefer the first part over the second part. The first part was, they introduced all the characters and stuff, and there was like some scary stuff. It was really good. And then the second part, was also very good. It was lots of like I said, character building, and they're sort of building the world again. It's changed. It's different. But it ends on a really good cliffhanger too. It's really good. Yeah, so it's available on Spotify. We're Alive, Descendants Chapter 1, parts 1 and 2. Highly recommend it, although I recommend you start from the beginning. The very first episode came out in like 2009. I recommend you start from the beginning. Chapter 1, it begins. Start from this. This is the original series. And then the new one, I mean, you got a lot. You got like probably like months worth of content. Like it's 40... I think the original run was like 45 chapters. It's 45 chapters. And then you got, I think 6 parts in Lockdown. And then you got 10 chapters in Gold Rush. And then you got another 2 here. So yeah, there's tons of content here. Yeah, highly recommend this series. I'm not going to give it like a I'm not going to give it like a number rating. I'm just not going to. I'm just going to tell you that I like it and I highly recommend it as somebody who like is a fan of obviously like survival horror and zombie genre and all of that. And you can find it on Spotify. I'll also put the link, the Spotify link in the, in this video, or when I put it up on the Spotify, either my YouTube channel or my, Spotify. Yeah, I think that'll wrap the podcast up for the week. I honestly just wanted to go over We're Alive and like the new content they're putting out. I love the show. I cannot say enough good things about it. Maybe we'll get lucky. We can interview one of the like producers or creators of the show, or maybe I can get in contact with one of like the voice actors. We can ask them how it was like recording stuff. Maybe get some insight. How it was to like work on it and all that. I would be a blessing. It'd be amazing. But that'll do it for us. We are going to do immediately following this. We're going to do a Destiny 2 stream. I'm playing Destiny 2, y'all. It's wild, dude. I think we're going to do the story campaign. Hopefully it streams okay. I've always had sort of issues getting that game optimized. I played around with it a little bit before stream, trying to get it optimized, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, guys, that'll wrap it up for the podcast. Obviously, don't forget to give me a good review if you like the content on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get this podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and destroy that like button. And I'll catch you next one, guys. Peace.